Achaemenid Empire, the sixth king of Achaemenids, Artaxerxes. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today let's talk about the sixth king of the Achaemenids, Artaxerxes. Now before we get into the topic, like always, please remember to subscribe so you won't miss any new videos that come out. Also, if you enjoy this video, it would be very helpful if you could leave a like or comment because it really helps us out a lot. Thank you guys so much. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So art historian James C. Greenholtz describes Artaxerxes as the most interesting and controversial of all the kings of the Achaemenid period. In his book, The Achaemenid Kingship, he said, Artaxerxes was undoubtedly one of the greatest and most influential monarchs in Iranian history. Born around 480 BC, Artaxerxes became the king of the Achaemenid Empire after defeating his brother Otanis in a civil war. His reign lasted for 41 years, from 465 to 423 BC, during which he waged several wars against the Greeks and the Scythians. Who is Artaxerxes? Who were his parents? We don't know who his mother was, but his father's name was Xerxes III. As mentioned earlier, his older brother was Otanis. When their father died, the throne passed to Otanis, but Artaxerxes rebelled and eventually defeated his brother and took the throne for himself. The Greek name of Artaxerxes is Artaxerxes Longimanus. It means, the king is happy with my hands. The origin of this name is uncertain, but according to some scholars, it comes from the Old Persian word art, which means valiantly, and shesh, which means hand. According to others, it comes from the Old Persian arta, which means worthy, and shak, which means hand. The exact meaning of the name is uncertain, but it probably means something like worthy hand or valiantly handed. In ancient texts, Artaxerxes is usually described as being tall and handsome, with long flowing hair and a heavy mustache and beard. He was also described as being brave and warlike, but at the same time intelligent and diplomatic. The Greek historian Plutarch says that Artaxerxes had red hair and a freckled face, but other descriptions say that he had dark hair and skin. However, these descriptions may not be entirely accurate as they were written by Greek historians who may have had a certain bias against the Persians. For example, Herodotus, who wrote about the Battle of Marathon, claimed that the Persian king Xerxes I rode on a golden chariot pulled by 7 horses, while the Greek hero Miltiades led the Greek army on foot. This description of Xerxes riding in a golden chariot is repeated by Plutarch in his biography of Themistocles, but there is no evidence that such a thing ever happened. Artaxerxes came to power in a turbulent time for the empire. Although his father Xerxes had conquered many lands, including Egypt and parts of Europe, the empire was now facing threats from many sides. The Greeks were still a threat after their victory at the Battle of Salamis, and the nomadic Scythians were becoming more aggressive along the northern borders. Artaxerxes had to deal with these threats while also trying to secure his position as the ruler of a vast empire. He did all this with great success, establishing peace and stability throughout the empire and leaving a lasting legacy as one of the greatest rulers of the Achaemenid dynasty. In order to fully understand how Artaxerxes became king and why he started a war with the Greeks, we first need to go over his predecessor, Cyrus the Great. Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Achaemenid Empire, died in 530 BC after ruling for 29 years. After his death, the empire was inherited by his son, Cambyses II, who ruled for only 7 years. Cambyses II was known for his cruelty and paranoia, and he executed many of his siblings out of fear that they would usurp the throne. However, he met his demise in 522 BC, when he went to conquer the Libyans and never returned. The exact circumstances of his death are unknown, but it is believed that he either died in battle or was assassinated. After Cambyses II's death, there was a 3-year period of instability in the empire known as the Crisis of the Seven Magians. During this time, there was a succession crisis, and 7 powerful nobles called the Magi took control of the empire in an attempt to restore stability. They appointed a Magian priest named Gaumata as the new king, who pretended to be the brother of Cambyses II. However, the pretender was eventually revealed and killed, and the rightful heir, Cyrus's younger brother, Darius I took the throne. Darius I then went on to conquer large parts of Central Asia and defeat the Scythians, as well as rebel satraps. He also implemented a series of administrative and economic reforms that helped to stabilize the empire and make it prosperous. After Darius I, the empire was inherited by his son, Xerxes I, who famously invaded Greece in 480 BC but failed to conquer Athens. After his death in 465 BC, the throne passed to his son, Artaxerxes I, also known as Amasis. He faced revolts in several satrapies, especially in Egypt, where the native ruler Psamtik III briefly succeeded in becoming independent. Artaxerxes I also had to deal with the Greeks, who had taken advantage of the internal conflicts in the empire to launch raids into Asia Minor. Artaxerxes I responded by launching a campaign against the Greeks, but he died in 460 BC before it was finished. His successor, Artaxerxes II, completed the campaign and defeated the Greeks, securing the empire's northern borders. Now, you might be wondering, why did Artaxerxes invade Greece? Well, it's because the Greeks had been a thorn in the side of the Achaemenid Empire for decades. Ever since the Persian Wars, the Greeks had been a constant threat to the empire's security, and Artaxerxes was determined to put an end to that. He launched a major campaign against the Greeks, but he died before it was finished. His son, Artaxerxes II, completed the campaign and defeated the Greeks, securing the empire's northern borders. Now, what about Artaxerxes' relationship with the Scythians? Well, the Scythians were a nomadic people who lived beyond the northern borders of the empire. They were fierce warriors, and they had been a problem for the Persians since the days of Cyrus the Great. Darius I had campaigned against them and even managed to defeat them in battle. But it was Artaxerxes I who finally managed to conquer the Scythians and bring them under the rule of the Achaemenid Empire. When Artaxerxes I came to power, the Scythians were a major threat to the empire's northern borders. They were skilled horsemen and archers, and they used their mobility to launch surprise attacks on the Persian satrapies. Artaxerxes I knew that he had to deal with the Scythians if he wanted to secure his empire, so he assembled a large army and launched a campaign against them. The Scythians were defeated and their lands were incorporated into the Achaemenid Empire. Artaxerxes I's victory over the Scythians was a major achievement. It allowed him to secure the northern borders of his empire, and it also demonstrated the military strength of the Achaemenid state. However, the Scythians were not the only people that Artaxerxes I had to deal with. He also had to contend with revolts in several of the empire's satrapies. The satrapies were the administrative divisions of the empire, and they were ruled by satraps, who were appointed by the king. Some of the satrapies were relatively autonomous, and they often had their own armies and minted their own coins. Over time, some of the satrapies became so powerful that they were effectively independent states. And this was a problem for Artaxerxes I, who was trying to assert his authority over the empire. One of the most serious revolts occurred in Egypt, where the native ruler, Psamtik III, declared independence from the Achaemenid Empire. Artaxerxes I responded by launching a campaign against Egypt, but he died before it was finished. His son, Artaxerxes II, completed the campaign and defeated the Egyptians, but he had to grant them a degree of autonomy in order to keep the peace. Overall, Artaxerxes I's reign was a time of great upheaval and change for the Achaemenid Empire. He had to deal with threats from outside the empire, such as the Greeks and the Scythians, as well as internal challenges, such as rebel satrapies. Despite these challenges, Artaxerxes I emerged as a strong and effective ruler. He established peace and stability throughout the empire, and he left a lasting legacy as one of the greatest rulers of the Achaemenid dynasty. All right, friends, that's all for today. I hope you learned something new. If you did, please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos. And if you enjoyed this video, it would be very helpful if you could leave a like or comment, because it really does help us out a lot. Thank you guys so much.